So today we are going to do my May wrap-up. If you guys have seen my last vlog or two, you know that shit kind of hit the fan in May, and I was going through I'm still kind of going through it, but feeling a little more stable in the situation. Anybody who didn't see the vlog, my brother is dealing with some serious mental health issues, and it's really throwing everybody on edge, and essentially we tried to get him some help. He doesn't want the help, and so everything is kind of all over the place right now, and we just don't really know where to go from here. Our hands are kind of tied. Because of that, when everything happened, there was like a solid probably week and a half where I literally didn't pick up a book. I just didn't. Every time I would go to pick up a book, I just couldn't focus on things. And then at the very beginning of the month, a friend of mine had some complications, and thankfully she's fine now, but the beginning of the month I was pretty stressed, and mid-month I was pretty stressed, and so that really threw off my reading a lot. So that's why this wrap-up is kind of shoddy. Anyway, I'm going to start with this behemoth first. I did start The Way of Kings in May. I did read the first 300 pages. So far I'm loving it. I just haven't read it in the last couple weeks because there were other things I needed to get to. But I absolutely love everything that I've read so far. I have been super, captured by the story, so definitely loving this. Going to continue on with that in June. The next book that I actually finished is Winter of the World by Ken Follett. You guys know this is the second book in the Century trilogy. The first one, I loved every single portion of it. Absolutely loved everything about it. This one, I felt like some spots were a little bit more slow moving, and I did find that I didn't cling to maybe as many of the characters. There's a few characters that I absolutely adore. I really loved Lloyd, absolutely loved Lloyd all the way through the story. I loved, oh my goodness, how did I just forget her name? And I also absolutely loved Carla. Carla is super sweet. I loved Lloyd. I loved Carla. There is another character, but I feel like if I say who it is, it will ruin the beauty of this character's character arc. So I'm not going to say that, but there was another character that I really loved, and this person had quite a drastic change from the beginning to the end, so I absolutely loved that. I did end up giving this book a 4.5, but I bumped it down to 4 stars on Goodreads, only because I couldn't help but compare it with the first one. That being said, I'm no less excited about going into the third book, and I didn't want to read the back until I finished this one, but I peeked at the back of that and saw some of the names of the characters that we're going to be following in the next book, and I'm pretty excited to see where those stories go, because I feel like those characters are going to be really awesome to see going forth. So anyway, did love this. I didn't think it was quite as good as the first one, but I still quite enjoyed that. The next book I'm going to talk about, I'll have to stick a picture up, is The Spies of Shilling Lane. And this one did not go well for me. Again, I included it in my vlog, so you saw kind of a tidbit. That book was so frustrating. So I'm okay. If I had known it was going to feel more like a Sherlock Holmes-y kind of just quirky mystery, I probably wouldn't have asked for it. Just because I don't know if that's quite, that's not really up my alley. Although, if I had known that it was going to be more kind of that side of things, on a cheesier side, I may not have expected so much from it, and I would have been a little bit less disappointed. I felt like this story, so Mrs. Braithwaite starts out as your typical, kind of cold-hearted, busybody, better than everybody else sort of character, and then all of a sudden, becomes, a hero with this big heart and all this stuff, and it's just it's fine. It just wasn't done well. I didn't feel like I felt anything throughout the entire book. I didn't feel like I felt anything. I felt like the author wrote it in a way that they told you this happened, and they told you this happened, and they told you this happened, but you didn't really feel like you were experiencing anything. There was a bit of a romance between the daughter and this other guy, and a lot of it was and she felt butterflies in her stomach, and she knew what that meant, little insinuations like that, but it just didn't pull me into the story. I thought that the daughter's character was really annoying, which sounds bad, but it's she ends up being this secret spy, but she's kind of terrible at her job. Like, they tell you that, like, she's one of the best, but then, like, her boss gives her an order and she doesn't listen. And I know that a lot of times people don't listen, but essentially in this story, you have Mrs. Braithwaite and her daughter, and this is, like, early on, so it's not really a spoiler. They find each other, they get separated, both of them think the other person is in danger for, like, a majority of the book, but you also know that neither of them would be in danger if they weren't actively looking for each other. Especially if they weren't looking for each other in the wrong place. I ended up giving this one 2 stars. There were the odd things that I, like, kind of liked-ish. Like, I wouldn't say, like, the writing was just completely crap. It just, like, 1, wasn't me, and 2, just wasn't anything special. At least not to me. I don't know. It just wasn't. And then there was this other part where they were up, these 3 people were in a kitchen, and it starts talking about how the light is peeking in the windows, and then it goes on to say that it's just after 2 a.m., and I could be completely wrong, but, like, the sun doesn't typically rise at 2 a.m. Just putting that out there. Again, some of these things could have been changed in the final book. This was just an e-arc that I had, but this book and I just did not get on very well, and I did not enjoy it, so I was super sad about that. But I did decide to pick up, because there's only a few days left in the month, and I'm already halfway done this, The Last Time I Saw Paris by Lin Sheen, and like I said, I'm about halfway through, 150 pages in, and it's a sweet story. Like, I wouldn't say it's exceptional, it's at least not so far, like, it's not this story that, like, you've never heard before, but I really like the main character. It's set around a flower shop, which I just love, because I love, like, floral things. I love making bouquets and stuff like that, but I really love that this setting is in a flower shop. It's a little bit different than normal. They're trying to keep this flower shop afloat. It's set in Paris in Nazi-occupied France, so they're trying to keep this flower shop open amidst the occupation. There's a little bit of, like, espionage going on. It's a neat little story, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. There's definitely going to be, like, a romantic aspect, but I expected it to be a lot larger, but I expected it to be, like, a larger part of the story, and so far we're still kind of building towards it, which I appreciate. Definitely appreciate that. But I really like the main character. Her name is Claire, and she just seems really sweet. Madame, who is the lady who owns the florist shop, she's really sweet. She's a little bit, like, she's kind of quirky and a little bit harsh at times, but I really likable. So I am definitely glad that I picked this up. I've had this on my shelf since last summer. I picked it up at some point, and I'm just glad that I finally got to it. Actually, Krista from Books and Jams here on YouTube, she actually, I think, just hauled this, and she was holding it up in one of her videos, and I went, I need to read that, because I haven't seen anyone talk about it on here yet. So I was like, man, I should really get to that one and see what I think of it, considering it's been sitting on my bookshelves for like a year or close to it. So anyway, I'm super glad I'm reading this one. I will update you on my final thoughts, because I mean, maybe the ending's totally crap and it'll go completely downhill. Fingers crossed that it doesn't. But I am definitely looking forward to finishing that one. If you have read any of these books and loved any of these books, or not so much loved any of these, comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, while you're down there, don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell so you're notified of future videos, and I will talk to you guys all soon. Thanks so much for watching.